Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. One trap that we can often fall into is replacing God with people. That is, trying to get out of people what we can only get out of God. And that's very destructive. It's destructive because it's unfair to the people that we want to try to put in that role, to put them in a role that they can never fill. And it's also destructive to us because really, we're searching for them to give us something that only God can provide, and therefore we're left empty and dry inside. And so the best thing that we can do is to stop trusting in other people to do what only God can do and to provide what only God can provide. This is brought out in Jeremiah chapter 17, starting in verse 5. It says, "Thus says Yahweh, cursed is the man who trusts in mankind and makes flesh his strength, and whose heart turns away from Yahweh. And he will be like a juniper in the desert, and will not see when prosperity comes, but will dwell in stony places in the wilderness, a land of salt which is not inhabited." Whenever we go searching for other people, or even if we begin to trust in ourselves and think that somehow we ourselves can provide us with what we need in life, it just really leaves us dry and empty. Again, people cannot give us what God can provide. We'll see in the next few verses that God is the source of life. He's the source of abundance. And it's only when we trust in him that we have a ready supply of those things. This is what he says, continuing in verse 7. "Blessed is the man who trusts in Yahweh, and whose trust is Yahweh. And he will be like a tree planted by the water, that sends forth its roots by a stream, and will not fear when the heat comes. But its leaves will be green, and it will not be anxious in a year of drought, nor refrain from yielding fruit." Sounds very similar to Psalm 1. But the idea here is that those that plug into God, that put their trust in God, have a ready supply of life and abundance. And God can fully satisfy us in a way that other people cannot. And so as long as we stay trusting in the Lord, connected to God by abiding in him, in a deep relationship with him, staying connected to God in prayer and worship, and also reading of his word, as we stay more and more connected to God, we find ourselves like a tree that has its roots that spread out to the stream, that take from the stream the water and the full supply that it needs for life. And God is only the one that can truly bring that. Other people might try to help the best that they can. They might sometimes seem like they're satisfying us or filling us with what we need, but ultimately they just don't have what it takes, simply because only God is the true source of those things. Only God is the true source of life and abundant life that he supplies. And so when we come to the Lord, we must come to him as our living water, as the stream of life that can fill our hearts and satisfy our souls. Jesus puts it this way to the woman at the well. He says that the person who drinks of the water that he can give will never thirst again. And he says also in John chapter 7 that anyone who's thirsty can come to him, and out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. Only God can make that happen, and it's only through a relationship with God. Not that our relationships with people aren't important, or that people are not an essential part of our lives in our community, but we can't place a burden on them greater than they can bear, and try to replace God with other people. We need to keep God in his place, stay close to him, and draw close to him. And then once we are filled with that living water, then we have enough reserve to then have a satisfying relationship with other people, and that we can dispense the wonderful abundance of life that we have in such a way that our other relationships with other people can be one in which we're not depending on them or putting a burden on them that's too heavy for them to bear, but that we are able to bear them up because we have the true life of God living and abiding in us. So let's be encouraged in Jeremiah chapter 17 to not trust in people. And try to depend on them to do what only God can do for us, and to plug into God, to take in the resources that he can provide that will truly and absolutely satisfy our hearts and our soul, and will give us that abundant life that will be one that will never go away, will never fade, and will always be a ready supply for us. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.